going on, everybody? I'm off to do my live internet show, but before that, I wanted to tell you guys this lesson today is all about tapping. There's a bunch of different ways you can tap on the electric guitar. I'm going to show you a bunch of those, so stay tuned for the whole video. Check it out and enjoy. When we talk about tapping, we're talking about using fingers on our right hand to do similar techniques that we do with our left hands when we do hammer-ons and pull-offs. We're going to use one of our fingers on our right hand to be able to fret a note. Let's see. And be able to fret a note out with our right hand. So what are the benefits of tapping? I mean, we all think back to Van Halen doing his thing. And that really was a big start to tapping, but there's so many iterations that have come since then of what you can do with tapping. So the first thing to realize, why would we want to do it? Not just to be flashy, that's kind of, that ship has sailed in my opinion, but really from a musical standpoint, it's really giving us another finger from our left hand. We now have, a fifth finger, if you will, on our right hand. But what's great is it's a detached finger that can go anywhere on the fingerboard, so we can cover a much larger span or a bigger interval on a given string. So for example, if I'm on the 3rd fret, I can only stretch up maybe to the 8th fret, give or take. But with a tapping finger, I can go all the way up to the highest note on the guitar, right? You can play both those notes and everything in between. Some people will tap where they put their pick in their mouth, which is, to me, it's just so gross, but people do it all the time. They'll put their pick in their mouth and you can see it hanging on their mouth, and they'll take their hands and use kind of like guardrails here on the side, and they'll use their first finger, which is definitely the Van Halen thing. I've never subscribed to this. The other reason I didn't like using my first finger for tapping is because it did not leave my pick in what I like to call the ready position, meaning ready to play another note. So for example, say I wanted to do some sweep picking, but then I also wanted to tap. Well, if I'm holding my pick in the ready position, my first finger is not available for a tap. Right? If we want to be able to do something like that, I have to be able to hold my pick ready to strike the next note if I'm going to continue that picking. Now, if you're just tapping exclusively, it doesn't much matter because you're not using the pick. But I think most of us, it's nice to have the pick and the tapping option once we get to that point. So the first thing I want to show you is my technique of how I do it. I like to have a little bit of a reference point and also keeping the other strings quiet. The pick right here comes down to this kind of corner of my thumb right here. I like to rest that on whatever strings I'm not tapping, right? So if I were to tap, I'm going to keep my first finger is going to be at a little bit of an arc. I'm sorry, second finger here is going to be a little bit of an arc, and it's not stabbing it. And I know we've talked about this before, but just a reminder, you don't want to stab it like that. It's more of like a woodpecker where this finger is pretty rigid. It comes down, makes good contact with the string, and then when I pull off, I pull slightly up. I'm not bending the string dramatically like that, but I'm coming off just enough to reignite the vibration of the string. So you see I'll tap, get the note to ring, and I come slightly up and slightly up towards my face. Some people push away when they do it. That's fine too. For me, I have more control coming slightly up. And you'll notice my hand is pivoting right here. Like I say, like that woodpecker. You don't want to be doing this, where your arm's off the guitar, or you're stabbing it with your finger. You don't have a lot of control, and you don't have a lot of reference points of where you're hitting the strings, because you're not kind of anchored down. This gives us a really good reference point here to hit the strings and notes that I want to hit. And so if you're new to tapping altogether, let's just play just a basic thing where maybe you fret out the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and then take your palm, get your second finger, line it up on the 12th fret of the 2nd string, get that super comfortable, and I'll give you kind of all angles there. That's what it looks like. My palm's touching these bigger strings so they're not making any noise. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tap that note, and I should hear it clearly ring, and then I pull off. And these notes should be equal in volume. Sounds almost like an ambulance in Europe, right? That's kind of odd. If you want the ambulance thing, right, just bending tap, same thing. But the point is, if you're not doing a lot of this, you're going to feel a callus start to grow pretty quickly. This should be sore. You'll notice it when you wash your hands under hot water, which hopefully you do. PSA, right? But you'll notice it should be sore the first week you do this, and you'll get a callus on it, which is super helpful. I look at tapping as, we have forward and backwards tapping. When I say forward or backward, when I say forward, I'm talking about from a lower note to a higher note, and backwards, I'm going from a higher note to a lower note. So just a simple pattern, we'll stay on that 12th fret where we are here, But let's do this. Let's just pluck the string. Rather than tapping that note, let's pluck the string with our tapping finger so we hear the note open. All we're doing is just igniting the string, so to speak. Then we're going to hammer onto the 5th fret with our first finger. We're going to hammer onto the 7th fret with our 3rd finger and then tap the 12th fret. Right when you tap that 12th fret, your left hand should come off and pull back off to open. So it's open, 5, 7, 12. Open, 5, 7, 12. Notice every note is equal in volume and duration. Okay, that's important. The hard part about that for most people when they're first learning is when they come off of here, when this finger comes up, making sure their left hand is not on the fingerboard, interrupting that note. And a lot of people also, when they start playing faster, tend to do this, where they just kind of smack that string and don't get that note to ring. You want to hear that note. We should hear 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. If you're thinking 16th notes, just think 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. Make that consistent. That's pretty much an imperative. You really want to work on that because that's going to be an important way to get this to sound clean. You could do 3 notes if you want. 1, 2, 3, like triplets. Triple, or 4 notes. Doesn't matter. So we're going to reverse that equation. Now we're going to do what I would call backwards tapping, and really we're just going high to low. So we're going to tap first. That means our finger has to be down when I tap. Instead of picking it up when I tap, I would have to have these down ready to pull off to that note. So I'm going to tap 12, pull off to 7, pull off to 5, and then pull off to open. And I use my first finger here to mute that first string. So if I just pull off, I'm going to hear both strings. So you'll hear. And again, you want to hear each note equally. Okay, forward, backwards, right? So those are the forward to backwards, but then also you could obviously do a third option, which is going to be either forward to backwards or backwards to forward, depending upon where you start. So basically what we're going to do in this case, we might do 12, 7, 5, 0, 5, 7, 12. That's more of like a hopper teacher thing. Right? So that type of thing. So direction doesn't matter. The thing I think that's most important is that you do it consistently. Learn each one first, meaning learn how to do forward, get that really comfortable. Learn how to do it with 3 notes and 4 notes. Those are going to be your 2 most common patterns probably. And then same thing for backwards, and then try going low to high and back and forth that way. So you're kind of in a circular motion. Other things you can do with tapping obviously would be to do bends. You can do slides. Right. There's a lot you can do with your right hand to kind of move that all over the place and create just cool little phrases, little licks, things you want to play around with that just sound more interesting. Another thing you could do with tapping is to do what we call pedal tones. You think of like classical music or violins, and you think about a pedal tone where you have your tapping finger do 1 note consistently and then pulling off. Every time I tap, I change the note. So every time my finger goes down here, I change to a different note with my left hand. Another way you can apply tapping is if you have it with hammer-ons and pull-offs while string changing. Say, for example, I want to play an A minor pentatonic scale. We all know this, so we use this all the time. All of us, in every video I ever see, well, this is mentioned at some point. So our A minor pentatonic, forward to backwards on the first one. So low to high, back down, hammer on when I change strings, then tap, pull off, hammer, tap, pull off, hammer, tap, pull off, hammer. Another thing you can do that's pretty fun with tapping is literally just do the octave of whatever you're playing. If I'm playing 5 to 7, I'm hammering 5 to 7, tapping 17 to 19. That's going to be the octave of those 2 notes, and you can do a variety of different versions of that as well. So that's kind of a good way to think about tapping in terms of technique and just getting the fundamentals of being able to go forward to backwards, playing it on different strings, not being afraid to add more techniques to it as you get more comfortable with it, whether it be slides or bends.